back to the second segment of episode 114 of Sold with Updike Pew.
And I was just told by the producer that I need to apologize because my phone was going off the entire time. So if you heard that buzzing, I apologize. I'll set it down now. Thank you.
It happens.
All right, 2021 off with a bang.
That's right.
So what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about where would you live if you didn't have to go to the office.
Which is going to be a reality, I think, for a while. A lot of companies have already said, we're not opening our offices back up until, August of 2021.
And I have to tell you this, the reason why we decided to put this into play is because we have a client that is coming in town next Monday, and he's from San Diego, and he has traveled across Arizona, Denver, Minnesota, and he has looked in Atlanta, and he has decided that Dallas is the place for him. He doesn't have to actually live in California anymore for work, and so this is the place for him. And so we kind of thought, well, if you didn't have to live anywhere, where would you live? And what would you do? So we're going to look at different homes that are available and talk about what's good and what's bad, what you need to know. And what would be the first one that we would start with?
Well, I think, one of the first options is if you did want to live in an urban environment and you wanted to live somewhere that is kind of maintenance free and has views, a high rise might be a great option for you.
I think that, we saw a huge trend here in Dallas as people in Plano and Frisco, that's just two, but around the DFW area decided that they wanted to move into more urban areas, and even Frisco now has a really great urban area, but these urban areas are allowing people to have less maintenance and less chores, if you'll say, around the house. Maybe they're at that point in their life where they don't need that, but yet they don't need anything else, and these make sense for them.
They do, and a lot of the high rises, mid rises, that kind of environment, because of where they're predominantly located, you get great walkability. You have great accessibility. You have great access to mass transit. You have great access to shared ride, whether it's Uber or Lyft or whatever. You've got all of that right there at your doorstep. And so, we had one client that moved here from New York City this last year that doesn't even own a car.
Yep. And we put her right in the middle of the most urban space ever. She loves it. So the other thing too is that if you're looking at some place that is more of a high rise, a lot of times the amenities are quite a bit more. So amenities include a concierge. Sometimes they have gyms. Quite often they have really nice pools these days. And so the services that also surround those could be anywhere from dry cleaning, dog walking assistance. So there's a lot more that these properties now have for you.
Yeah, and most of one of the great things about living in urban environments, especially in some of the newer high-rise buildings, is going to be that you're going to have access to high-speed internet, which, a lot of people had high-speed internet set up, but in the way that they used it at the time, it was really for just downloads. And when you have Zoom meetings and that type of thing, you not only need to have the download speed, you need to have the upload speed. And, certain types of internet doesn't provide that.
Yeah. So one of the things we'll move to the next house would be a lake house. And so it's really interesting is that last year in 2020, Ebby announced that the partnership ownership of a brand new Cedar Creek Lake brokerage down there. So even Ebby is realizing how important it is to get involved with that. And so the lake houses come with a lot of extras. Again, you're going to have all of your outdoor activities, whether it's wakeboarding, kayaks, it's all there for you. Again, we step down though in the social aspect of that.
True. There, we had a lake house on Cedar Creek for a really long time, and your socialization is always available to you, but it's just in it's a much slower pace. People where, my friends won't just show up and knock on my door right now.
Right.
And many times in that kind of lake country environment, there's all of a sudden there's the boat coming up, showing up at your boat dock, and people, people getting out. Hey, what's going on? So.
The other thing too that I noticed that was interesting about the lake houses within my sphere, there were 3 different couples that actually at the beginning of 2019 spring actually went out and stayed for a very long time at their lake houses as everything wasn't quite sure how it was going to settle and shake down. and just really kind of had some R&R, but we're still able to, if had to, commute in, could, because it's typically hour to away for if they had an in-person meeting. But they did have really good internet out there as well.
Yeah, they do now. It was funny when we had our house down there was when the DSL was, kind of the hot internet connection that was happening. And
Oh, is that hot? Was that hot?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was hot then. I think
Interesting.
we had a 1.4 meg connection at the
Woo!
time.
Everybody slow down.
Yeah. But,
God.
at the time it was fast, and that was, you didn't have all the complexity that websites have now. And you certainly didn't require the bandwidth because, Skype was barely on the horizon at that moment. So,
Yep. So the next one that we're going to move into, and this one actually came out from our showing last week, and that one is acreage. And we're actually talking about more of a rural acreage, and that would be something that's over 5 acres. And I think that is one of those spaces where it really begins to change the use and what an actual home feels like on that much space.
and this was a gated community, although there were probably not more than, I'm going to say, 25, 30 houses,
Maybe.
25, 30 lots in there.
Yeah.
But everybody had a minimum of 5 acres. And they were, there were building restrictions that were in place. So you had to, have it at least a certain size of home. Just they wanted to kind of keep everything with a little continuity.
Yep. And I think the other thing too, that when you get into something that has this much space, what it allows you to do is really explore some of your hobbies. So the one that we showed out there was a really nice, brand new construction, modern ranch style home that was really well done, but it had a detached 3-car high lift garage that also had a really great living quarters in it. And so it kind of allowed someone to do woodworking, to have metal shops. If you want to do ceramics, there's just a lot more. And then if you're into having that outdoor space for gardening or just letting the kids out, this is really one of those things. And I think that the family began to look at it from that standpoint, knowing that the kids could run
Right.
and just run
Yeah.
out there, which is really nice.
And it was heavily wooded, and you get a lot of that serenity when you go out and get into that kind of environment. You many times have a lot better privacy
Right.
than it's kind of it's again different than what you might have your neighbor call and come over, but in terms of there's nobody really else in your neighborhood.
Yeah, it's not so much as a destination as like the lake is going to be a destination. Someone's going to want to come out there and visit you. And I mean, they'll visit you, but it's going to be different.
Yeah.
On a much different. One of the other things that's quite a bit different too can be utilities. So utilities, you could actually have your own lateral lines. You could have your own well.
Yeah, this house had an aerobic septic system.
So the last thing that I would say to think about is that you can
Stay
get
away
Aggie
from the really green parts of the yard.
We did find this. We did. I was like, it's so green in the middle of winter or so. Ag exemptions. Ag exemptions are available out there. One of the things that is now included in ag exemptions here in Texas is bees. So the house that we were actually showing had 5 acres, and 4 of the acres were ag exempt because of the bees. There was nothing else on there. So
Which the exemption lowers your taxes quite dramatically.
yeah, it does. Like when we pulled them, we were kind of like, that doesn't make sense. Is it what's going on here? So the agent was able to help explain that.
Yeah.
The last thing would be to think about your high-speed internet access when you get rural. Sometimes it's great because they're laying brand new fiber wires. Other times, if it's super rural, it can be a time when it might be much more difficult.
Yeah, could be.
So, things to
But
think.
there are, like, there's satellite options and all kind of microwave options and stuff like that. So you can
It's
get
there.
internet access pretty much anywhere. It's just how heavy on it are you going to be demanding?
How fast and how
Hotspots
expensive.
also. I know my little brother and his wife had built a house in Idaho, and while they were going through the building process, he wanted to have cameras on the property so he could watch from here what was going on. And so he got a Verizon hotspot that's a 4G cellular hotspot, and he had it mounted in a little trailer that they had out there. And so they had all their wireless cameras hooked up to it, and it worked perfectly for what they needed.
And it's funny because now that you're saying that, they're a perfect example of people that don't have to, because of the pandemic, have to live here any longer. Kids left, and their jobs don't require them to be here, and so they kind of are getting a head start on what they want to do in retirement.
Yeah,
So.
it's really been fun to watch.
It is. Well, we hope that you found this interesting. We hope it like kind of challenged you to think about where you live, and if anything you're living in changes, we'd love to know about it.
We'd be happy to help you with it too.
Yep.
So thanks for joining us today. It was really fun to get back in the studio, and we wish you all a very, very happy new year.
And remember, we want to be your realtors for life.